By the third night, it happened again, same time, same way. But this time, Solomon woke up gasping for breath, his body cold as ice. He sat up slowly, sweat running down his neck, and turned toward Bola. She was lying quietly beside him, sleeping soundly, but something about her face looked different, too calm, too still. For a split second, he thought he saw a dark hand, long and shadowy, gently caressing her cheek. He blinked hard, heart racing, but when he looked again, the hand was gone. Fear gripped his chest. He reached out and whispered, "Bola. Bola, wake up." But she didn't move. Her chest rose and fell like someone in deep trance. Solomon shook her gently, panic crawling up his throat, but still she didn't stir. It was as though she was under a spell. From that night, the same thing continued. Exactly at 1 a.m., Solomon would wake up, always on the cold floor, trembling, with no memory of how he got there. During the day, everything seemed normal. Bola would cook, laugh, and go to work as if nothing strange ever happened. But the nights told another story. Solomon began to dread sleep. He would fight it with coffee, music, even prayer, but no matter how hard he tried, sleep always overtook him. And each time he woke, he was back on the floor. What he didn't know was that when he closed his eyes, something else came to share his wife's bed. One night, Solomon decided he had had enough. He pretended to sleep, determined to see what really happened at 1 a.m. The clock ticked quietly. As the minute hand struck 1, a sudden coldness filled the room. The curtains swayed gently even though the windows were locked. The bulb flickered once, twice, then dimmed. Solomon lay still, barely breathing. Then he heard it, a faint whisper beside Bola's bed, a man's voice, deep and slow, calling her name tenderly. Bola stirred, her breathing changed as though she was trapped in a dream. Solomon tried to move, but his body refused to obey. It felt like invisible chains held him down. His eyes darted helplessly toward the bed. He could see the bedsheet shifting, as if an unseen figure had lain beside his wife. The air grew heavy, charged with strange energy. Bola's face was peaceful, almost joyful, as though she was lost between two worlds. Solomon's heart pounded violently. He wanted to shout, to call her name, but no sound came from his mouth. He could only watch, frozen, as a tall shadow moved across the wall, faintly glowing, almost human. Then, as suddenly as it began, everything stopped. The cold faded, the bulb brightened, and Solomon could move again. He jumped up and rushed to Bola's side, shaking her awake. Her eyes fluttered open, sleepy and confused. "What happened?" she mumbled. Solomon's lips trembled. There's something in this room." Bola looked around and saw nothing. The room was still. The silence was thick. She smiled weakly and said, "Maybe you were dreaming." But deep inside, Solomon knew he wasn't. He had seen something. And whatever had come for his wife in the night wasn't done with her yet. By morning, Solomon couldn't keep quiet any longer. He sat at the edge of the bed, staring at Bola as she dressed for work. His hands were shaking, his eyes red from another sleepless night. "Bola," he said quietly. "I can't keep pretending nothing is happening in this house." She paused, confused. "What do you mean?" Solomon's voice trembled. "You're cheating on me." Bola froze. The words hit her like a slap. "What? Solomon, how can you say that?" "I see things, Bola," he shouted suddenly, standing up. "Every night at exactly 1 a.m., something happens in this room. I hear a man's voice beside you. The bed moves, the air changes, and I can't move, I can't speak, but I see it. Don't tell me I'm mad." Tears gathered in Bola's eyes. "Solomon, I swear, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see anyone. I don't hear anything." He paced the room, holding his head. Then explain why I wake up on the floor every night. Explain the shadow on the wall. Bola, something is wrong with you, or with us. Bola sat down, trembling. Deep inside, she wanted to deny everything, but something in her chest remembered a dream she once had, a wedding in a garden, a man in white calling her his wife. Could it be connected? She shook her head quickly, refusing to believe it. Please, Solomon, she whispered, let's pray. Maybe it's just an attack. Solomon nodded slowly, but fear had already taken root in his heart. He didn't know if he was fighting a dream or something that had claimed his wife long before he met her. Days turned into weeks. The tension in their home grew heavier. Solomon barely spoke, and Bola spent more time alone, praying and fasting. They had been married for 2 years, yet no child had come. Then one night, Bola had a dream that shook her soul. In the dream, she was heavily pregnant. Her belly was round, glowing. People were singing and dancing, celebrating her motherhood. She was dressed in white, holding a baby wrapped in gold cloth. Beside her stood a tall man, smiling proudly. His voice was soft but commanding as he whispered, "You will soon bring forth my child." When Bola woke up, her heart was racing. Sweat covered her face. She touched her stomach, it was flat. Tears filled her eyes. She turned to Solomon, who was still asleep, and whispered, "God, please let this dream come true. I want to carry my husband's child." But what Bola didn't know was that the dream wasn't a blessing, it was a sign. In the spirit world, a covenant had already been sealed. The spirit husband had planted something, not in her body, but deep in her destiny. From that night, Bola began to feel strange movements in her stomach, like something alive inside her. Yet every medical test said she wasn't pregnant. One evening, as she sat in silence, Solomon watched her closely. "Bola," he said finally, "we need to see a pastor. This thing is not normal." Bola nodded, fear in her eyes. That single decision, to seek help, would uncover secrets darker than either of them imagined. As days passed, Bola's dreams became stranger and more frequent. Some nights, she found herself surrounded by children, beautiful, laughing, calling her mommy. They ran around her, playing joyfully as she lifted them in her arms. Her heart swelled with love. But each time, just as she began to feel peace, the scene would fade, replaced by darkness and cold. The same invisible presence would return, strong and possessive. She could feel it touching her, whispering in her ear, "You are mine, Bola. You belong to me." Each time she tried to pray, her lips froze. Her spirit cried out, but her body betrayed her. It was as if two worlds were fighting for her soul, one holy, one unholy, and she was trapped in the middle. Solomon would wake beside her, terrified. He couldn't see who was with her, but he saw her face, her expressions of pleasure, the way her body moved as if someone unseen held her close. It broke something deep inside him. One night, unable to bear it anymore, Solomon shouted, "Bola, who are you with? Are you cheating on me, even in your sleep?" Bola woke with a scream, trembling and crying. "No, Solomon, please. I swear, I don't know what happens to me. Something comes every night, I can't stop it." But Solomon didn't understand. He had never believed in spiritual things. He only saw what his eyes showed him, his wife, moving like she was in the arms of another man. That night, Solomon picked up his pillow and went to sleep on the couch. The distance between them grew like a wound that refused to heal. Bola wept silently until dawn, her tears soaking the pillow. When morning came, she felt weak and hollow, but the laughter of those spirit children still echoed softly in her mind. She wondered bitterly, are those my spirit husband's children? Or is God trying to show me something? A week later, something strange happened. Bola woke up one night to see wet footprints on the floor, fresh, glistening trails that led from the door straight to her bed. Her blood ran cold. The next morning, she tried to act normal at work, but her face told another story. The dark circles beneath her eyes, the quiet sadness in her voice, her colleagues noticed. Some pitied her. Others gossiped. A new woman had joined their office recently, Thorson. Sharp, ambitious, always smiling too brightly. She dressed well, spoke with confidence, and carried herself like someone who wanted the whole world to see her shine. But her eyes told another story, eyes that watched Bola with quiet envy. At first, Thorson acted friendly. Compliments, small talk, little gestures. But soon, her true nature showed. She began whispering to the manager about small mistakes, a late report, a missing file. Nothing major, but enough to plant seeds of doubt. "She's been distracted lately," Thorson said one day with a sympathetic smile. "Maybe she's going through something at home. I just think the company deserves someone more focused." Bit by bit, her words took root. Rumors spread quietly. A client complained about a delay. A misplaced document appeared under Bola's name. And every time, Thorson was there, smiling faintly, pretending to care. Then, one morning, Bola was called into the HR office. Her heart dropped before she even entered the room. The manager sat behind the desk, papers in hand, face tight and professional. "Bola," he began, "we appreciate your service, but your recent performance has been concerning. Too many small errors. We are giving you a formal warning." The words hit like thunder. Bola's ears rang. She could barely breathe. When she left the office, her hands were trembling. She walked through the corridor like someone carrying an invisible load. That night, she cried until her eyes swelled. Alone in the apartment, she pressed her face into her pillow and wept. The world felt cruel, and heaven felt far away. Meanwhile, across town, Thorson was celebrating. A quiet drink, a few laughs with colleagues, a small toast to her hard work. She felt triumphant, believing she had finally pushed her rival out of the way. But that night, as she entered her apartment, something shifted. A cold wind slipped through the window though it was firmly shut. The lights flickered once. The mirror above her dresser fogged, as if someone had breathed on it. Thorson froze. In the reflection, she saw not her own face, but a tall, dark figure standing behind her. Its eyes burned like dying coals. Then, a voice filled the room, low, deep, and heavy with authority. "You touch what belongs to me, and you will pay." Her knees gave way. She fell to the floor, trembling violently. Fear unlike anything she had known gripped her heart. She couldn't scream, the air itself seemed to press against her throat. The next morning, she woke up shaking, unsure if it was a dream. But deep down, she knew it wasn't. Something had followed her home. In the days that followed, Thorson's life began to unravel quietly, like a rope slowly loosening from its knot. Her usual confidence crumbled. She fumbled presentations she once handled with ease. Documents went missing from her desk. Her once smooth voice shook during meetings. Colleagues who had once praised her began to whisper behind her back. The manager who used to smile at her complaints now brushed her off with laughter. It was as if something unseen had turned the tide against her. Thorson started waking up drenched in sweat, her dreams filled with shadows. Sometimes she saw herself standing in a field of darkness while a deep voice echoed, "You touch what is mine." The words burned like fire in her skull. One morning, she entered the office looking pale, her makeup unable to hide the exhaustion on her face. Before noon, HR called her in. This time, the atmosphere was different. The same manager who once believed every word she said now looked at her coldly. "Miss Thorson," he began, flipping through a file, "we've reviewed recent reports. Several irregularities have been traced back to you. Misplaced forms, altered client feedback, and internal manipulation of records. These are serious allegations. Torsen's mouth went dry. Sir, I don't understand. Someone must be setting me up. But the evidence was clear. The lies she had spun to bring Bola down had turned against her. Like a mirror reflecting guilt, the system showed her hand in everything. Before she could even beg, the decision was made. You're dismissed effective immediately, the HR officer said flatly. She left the building that afternoon with her bag over her shoulder and shame burning her throat. The whispers followed her down the hall: karma, punishment, juju, spirit matter. Nobody said it out loud, but everyone felt it. That night, Torsen sat alone in her apartment. The air was heavy. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Then, as she glanced toward her mirror, she saw it again, two red eyes behind her reflection. Her scream never left her throat. At Bola's office, the news spread quickly. Some rejoiced. Others pitied. But Bola felt nothing, no joy, no revenge. Her tears had dried into a quiet ache. She only whispered, God, if this is your doing, have mercy. That week, a new HR officer joined the branch, Mrs. Adutu. She was a calm woman with kind eyes and a quiet presence that made people tell her their secrets without meaning to. The first time she saw Bola, she paused, watching her with silent curiosity. Later that afternoon, she approached her by the corridor and said softly, something follows you. Bola froze. More. I've seen it before, Mrs. Adutu continued gently. It's not ordinary. But don't be afraid. If you want help, meet me after work. Bola hesitated, her heart racing. Help, how? The woman smiled faintly. There are prayers that open the truth. That evening, as the sun dipped low, Bola went to the place Mrs. Adutu mentioned, an old prayer ground on the outskirts of the city. The air there felt thick with memory, as though generations of voices still whispered in the soil. Mrs. Adutu was already waiting, dressed in white, a small lantern flickering beside her. Tonight, the air will change, she said quietly. Stay close to your husband. Do not speak of me at home yet. The spirit knows me now, it will grow angry. That night, the clock leaned toward 1 a.m. as though the whole city was holding its breath. The curtains began to stir though the windows were shut. The fan slowed as if something heavy pressed against it. Solomon rolled off the bed again, pushed, not fallen. Bola gasped as a cold voice whispered beside her, You are mine. Stay away from that woman. The sound sliced through the darkness like a blade. She wanted to call out to Mrs. Adutu, but the voice wrapped around her lungs and strangled her words. Her eyes widened as a shadow unfolded over her like smoke, wrapping her in its cold embrace, half lover, half jailer. At dawn, Solomon woke up on the floor again, trembling and weak. Outside, a gust of wind slammed against a loose shutter, the sound cutting through the silence like a warning. Bola sat on the bed, clutching her chest. He came again, she whispered. Her voice was small and broken. Mrs. Adutu's words echoed in her mind, the battle has just begun. That night, Bola dreamed again, white lilies, a wedding in a shining garden, the same man in white sliding a ring onto her finger. You are mine, he said softly. This time, there was no fear. Only a terrible calm. Bola woke abruptly. The clock beside her flashed 1 a.m. outside, the wind was rising, and the whole city seemed to be holding its breath for a storm. Solomon stopped going to work regularly. His colleagues said he looked like someone who had seen death and survived only halfway. His once neat shirts became wrinkled, his eyes, red and heavy. Every night was war in his home. Every morning felt like waking up inside the same nightmare. One evening, unable to bear the silence anymore, he went to meet his old friend Connor at a small bar near Ojodu. The air smelled of pepper soup and stale beer. Music played faintly from a radio, but Solomon barely noticed. He just sat there, staring into his drink as if it could tell him the truth. "Guy, you no look well." "Oh," Connor said, leaning closer. "You and Bola dey okay?" Solomon let out a bitter laugh. "Okay. My marriage done turned to battlefield. Every night something pushes me off my own bed. I hear a man's voice with my wife. She no see am, she no hear am. But me, I dey see everything. You go tell me say no dream." Connor sighed and lowered his voice. "My brother, this world get things wey eyes no fit explain. You remember my cousin wey see woman for dream Miriam? When he wake, ring dey him finger for real life. The thing no be joke." Solomon rubbed his face with shaking hands. "I don't pray, Connor. I don't fast. But the thing no stop. If Bola even mentioned that woman, Mrs. Adutu, something go happen that night. I don't know who she really be." Connor leaned closer. "You need deliverance, my guy. Proper one. Not all this small prayer. You need someone wey sabi warfare prayer." Solomon nodded slowly. He knew Connor was right, but his heart was tired. He didn't know who to trust anymore. Pastors had prayed. Prophets had spoken. Yet the thing kept coming. That night when he returned home, Bola was sitting on the floor in the dark, her Bible open before her, tears running down her face. "Solomon," she whispered, "I can't sleep again. The voice keeps calling me. He says his name is Aramu. He says I was promised to him before birth." Solomon froze. "Promised? By who?" "I don't know," she cried. "He said my mother made a vow before I was born. He said I belong to him in the spirit world." Solomon sat heavily beside her. "Then we will break it. Even if we have to fight till dawn." Bola shook her head slowly. "It's not that simple. He doesn't just want me anymore, he wants you too." That night was different. The air grew thick like rain clouds inside the room. The curtains flapped though the windows were shut. Solomon grabbed Bola's hand and began to pray. "In the name of Jesus." A deep laugh echoed from nowhere and everywhere at once. "You think he can take what is mine?" The lights flickered. The mirror on the wall cracked. Bola screamed. Solomon held her tighter, shouting louder, his voice shaking. "The blood of Jesus speaks louder than your lies." But the voice only laughed again. The room filled with the smell of something burning, something like old perfume mixed with smoke. Then silence. Heavy, complete silence. When Bola opened her eyes, Solomon was lying on the floor, unconscious. She fell beside him, shaking him, weeping. "Solomon. Please, wake up. Don't leave me." He gasped suddenly, air rushing into his lungs as if he had been underwater. His eyes opened wide. "He was here," he whispered. "He touched me." From that night, Solomon began to dream the same dream Bola once had: white lilies, the wedding, the man in white smiling. The only difference was this time, he was standing beside Bola. In the dream, the man said to him, "Since you will not release her, you will join her." Solomon woke drenched in sweat, his heart pounding. He didn't tell Bola what he saw. He didn't have to, because when he looked at her, he knew she had dreamed it too. The next morning, Mrs. Adutu came uninvited. She looked grave, her face set with quiet authority. "He's marked you both now," she said softly. "The spirit husband has decided if he cannot take her alone, he will take both of you." Solomon's voice cracked. "So what do we do now?" Mrs. Adutu sighed. "You fight. But not with fear." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small bottle of oil and a folded white cloth. "Tonight, when it comes again, don't shout. Don't beg. Just hold hands and call the name of God with one voice. Don't open your eyes until it leaves." Bola clutched the cloth like a lifeline. Solomon only nodded, though his heart trembled. He knew tonight would decide everything, life or madness.